Hey guys, Jordan West back with another episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand. I'm really pumped about this one today, guys. You know, sometimes when you're talking to someone and you realize you're talking to someone who gets it, you know? when you're talking to someone, you're like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to have a really good conversation here about a lot of the things that I'm thinking about and caring about and all of that right now. And I really think that that's going to be this conversation today. So Mina Elias, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jordan. I'm excited to be here and excited to chat.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So for people who don't know anything about you, tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, background. So, engineer by trade. I came to America in 2011. I was born in Egypt, grew up in Dubai, got my bachelor's and master's, worked up the corporate ladder, killed it there, realized that it wasn't for me because I felt like a caged animal. So I decided to start a supplement brand to get out of it. I took that, it was an electrolyte powder brand called MMA Nutrition. I created it because I was an MMA fighter, still am. Started in 2013. And so I wanted to create something that I was going to use. I failed at getting it anywhere into like any gyms or stores. So I decided to get it on Amazon. Figured that out, obviously became obsessive about how to make things work on Amazon, grew it and scaled it. I think I hit 94K a month in revenue in January of 2020. And then quickly after that, COVID hit. So I was at home, bored in LA, and I decided to get on podcasts and share everything that I learned and how I do stuff. I had nothing to sell, so I was just giving value. 6 months in, I became like super famous in the Amazon space. And this aggregator hits me up and says, we're looking for an Amazon expert to train our team. We just raised like $400 million. So I said, cool, I could do it. Here's a proposal. And they're like, well, we need to test you on one of our brands to prove that you actually know what you're doing. So they tested me on one brand. And I beat 6 other agencies that they'd hired, big name agencies. They showed me like the whole list. And so I'm like, dude, everyone's been asking me to run their Amazon brands and run their ads and stuff like that. And I keep turning people down to work on my brand. But clearly, like, I'm way better at this than I am at anything else. And that was the first time I realized that I like B2B more than I like B2C. So created the agency. This was about May of 2021. And we went from 1 employee to now 86 employees, 185 brands under management. We do full service Amazon. So, we like to take ownership of the whole Amazon account from, ads to creatives to reviews to SEO to inventory management. The whole thing. And yeah, that's my goal. My goal is now to keep growing, become the best in the world in the Amazon space, and then eventually become like a marketplace agency. So Amazon, Walmart, TikTok Shop, Cart, all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure you haven't listened recently, but I am obsessed with TikTok Shop right now. I think that it is the number one biggest opportunity that no one is really seeing right now. And so love that you brought that up, because I think that there's some massive stuff there and a lot of crossover, right, with social agencies like us. It's funny, in the one thing that you brought up is that you really realize that you love the B2B space. I've been in the business world for a long time now. We own multiple brands ourselves. And people will often ask me, I was actually I don't hop on client calls too often, but my salesperson wanted me to come in and chat with a pretty big brand. So I was just on there and like, George, like, why do you do this in particular? And I'm like, I'm just obsessed with helping people. I think there's a lot of leverage in B2B. There's a lot of leverage that you can help other people with, right? Like, imagine the amount of lives that you have changed now working with the 250 odd brands that you've worked with right now. That's crazy. That's crazy. If you're doing an amazing job, that's actually changing lives. And I find that absolutely amazing. So really, really love that. Also, just one more call out here. I got to say, like, I went on quite a health kick this year. I think I dropped about 30 pounds, maybe even 40. I don't know. I wasn't exactly weighing myself, but one of the big issues, and I'm a CrossFit guy, is electrolytes. And I realized, I'm like, that changed my life. That really changed my life when I started to actually put electrolytes back into my diet. I didn't realize how deficient I was and how, like, I would just be like seizing up in bed and like it was horrible. So anyway, all that to say, thank you for all of the things that you've said so far. This is wonderful. Now I want to get into some of your growth. Something that we were talking about, and you just kind of just off said like, oh, hey, sorry, I was a couple minutes late. I was filming a YouTube video. And I was like, let's get into your YouTube channel. You've grown to this big. And I was just about to say you've grown to 87 employees. Who cares about the amount of employees? That doesn't matter nearly as much about the amount of brands and impact that you are having. You just happen to have 87 people that are helping you out do that. Let's talk about where some of this growth came from. Do you mind getting into some of that? And direct to consumer owners, stick around here, because these principles are really important for all sorts of growth. And I think you're going to get a lot out of this.
Yeah. And also for D2C owners, I'll share my entire TikTok shop strategy with you guys. So make sure to stay until the end.
Sweet. Sweet.
There you go.
Yes.
That's
Awesome.
the first YouTube hack. So
Yeah.
let me tell you about my content ladder. I did a whole presentation on this, but it's like a very natural, like at the end when I look at it, like looking back, like in hindsight, I'm like, wow, like this actually played out really well. But like as I was doing it, I had no idea if it was gonna work or not. But so I started off in Facebook groups. So in Facebook groups, I was there. I was in like all of the Amazon Facebook groups, and in the first 6 to 8 months, I consumed everything possible. I literally like sucked the knowledge out of it. And then people started asking the same questions over and over, and I had made enough mistakes to figure it out. And instead of telling someone like, Jordan, the right way to grow your agency is to do a YouTube channel, I would say, hey Jordan, how I grew my YouTube agency is I started a YouTube channel and I did this, and this is what worked and this is what didn't work. And so you can see there's a large difference from like the way the information is like received is you should do this.
It's a little tweak though. It's like a little tweak that is so much better socially when you think no one wants to be told what to do, right? Exactly. Nobody wants to be told what to do. I mean, are you married? Like
I am married, yeah.
I can tell you like anytime I tell my wife, I think you should do this. Oh, it never goes well, even if it's wonderful advice. I mean, guys, like, come on, I give great advice, but so this is good. This is brilliant so far. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great tweak and something I'm going to use all the time. Thank you.
So it started as answering comments in the Facebook group. So I was constantly answering, questions, commenting. People started seeing my face, and it was the same name and the same logo. And I made sure I kept my same face across everywhere. And they started recognizing me. So then I moved up a ladder and I started making posts. And the posts were, again, very like, hey guys, I just want to share some results with you. I have my brand. This is my brand. You can go check it out. And I did this and I did this and this happened. And, I changed my main image and all of a sudden my click-through rate went up. And I dropped my price by $2 and then I increased my price by $2. And I noticed that even though my click-through rate went down when I increased my price, my overall profit was higher. And just, kind of documenting things. And people start saying, man, like this guy is like really, really good. And then I went into putting videos out. So I took a topic like pay-per-click advertising and I broke it down. I said, what is an auto campaign? What is a broad campaign? What is a phrase campaign? How to optimize your bit? And everything was just how I've done it and how it's worked for me. And I'm like, this is not like the law. Like you can do it a million different ways and it'll still work. This is just what worked for me. So if you have nothing, at least now you have something. And that really helped me blow up, in the Facebook groups and, communities of thousands of people learned about me. And then the next step from that was like podcasts. So I would hit up a podcast host like you, Jordan. I would say, hey, Jordan, I'd love to come on your show and give as much value as possible to your audience. Here's topics that I could talk about. And I would outline the topics and I would do sub bullets on all the topics. So they would see this and they'd be like, this is done. Like this guy knows what he's talking about. And it's going to be an easy conversation. They're going to come on. They're going to do all the heavy lifting. You're going to look amazing because your audience is going to be like, thank you for providing the value. And I always gave like, this is my brand. I'm doing $1 million a year in revenue. Like, so I'm not going to give you 8-figure advice. I'm just going to give you like, if you're under $1 million, like this is how I got here. That's all. And they love that. They love that I wasn't a guru or I was just sharing experience. So I did one podcast a week for like forever. Like for now I'm still doing one podcast a week. And that really,
I do the same thing.
Yeah. It helped me get on the map. And then I was like, okay, the missing piece here is podcasts. Like they give me exposure to everyone else's audiences, but then people want to learn more about me. So how are they gonna, kind of get nurtured? So I created the YouTube channel, and in the YouTube channel, I set the base foundation, which is like, let me take like all the fundamentals, like or foundations of like Amazon, which is pay-per-click advertising, creative optimization, conversion rate optimization, click-through rate optimization, this, that, whatever, launching campaigns, optimizing, and I broke it all up. And I start putting the content out there. So they would hear about me on podcasts. They would maybe listen to a few of them because they're like, I like this guy. And then in every single podcast, there was no talking about me. Like you're noticing right now, I'm not talking anything about myself. This is straight value. This is how I did what I did. You can go and apply it too, and you'll find success. And then so every single podcast was like that. They're like, okay, I want to learn more from this guy. Naturally, to learn, you go to YouTube. So they went to YouTube and they started learning about me. And they started getting immersed. And eventually, when I started the agency, all of that paid off. So before I didn't even have an agency, and I was building my YouTube channel.
Okay, there's some gold in there. Thank you. Guys, so D2C owners, absolutely listen to what Mina's saying, because I think that there's some principles that actually cross over into D2C land, right? Just because it's B2B and you're providing some kind of value there. I think that there's something there about not talking about yourself. I think as brands, a lot of times we want to tell everyone how awesome we are rather than telling them how, whatever we have actually makes their life better. No one cares about you. They don't care about your brand. At the end of the day, they just care about themselves and how it makes their life better, right? And I know it's a hard truth, but it's actually true. Tell me about how this now translated though, and this is for you agency peeps out there. Tell me how this then translated into clients, and are you continuing like the same type of video structure? I'd love to actually get into that, and then I also want to get into, what exactly is the video structure looking like that you are doing to this day? If you could just break that down for us.
Yeah. So it definitely turned into leads, and so initially I was like, okay, I'm not sure what to do. So when I created the agency, I said I'm going to funnel everything into one thing, which is an audit form. And so at the end of every single video, at the end of every single podcast, at the end of every single anything, it was always like,
Yep.
and if you guys want me to take a look at your account and give you actionable, value, not just, say, hey, you have a bunch of issues and pitch you. If you just want straight actionable value, you can then do it yourself, or you can hire me to do it. Go to the, triviumco.com and click on the get a free audit page.
Yeah.
So I funneled everything into an audit, and that worked tremendously. I mean, we started getting 30, 50, 80, 100, 150 audits every single month of people that are coming in inbound, qualified, that want to work with us, to the point where I couldn't say yes to a lot of brands because we didn't even have smaller divisions. I'm like, okay, we just have the main ads division, so I had to create new divisions for like smaller ads divisions, and then I had to create for like super small, like just launching divisions. And so I mean, that funnel worked very, very well, and I loved it because I was just adding a lot of I was at a conference, Prosper, and I just got back, and not cool. Maybe I met like 30 or 50 people at least, just walking randomly through the conference. I said, Mina, I just want to say, man, thank you so much for all the content that you put out there. Thank you so much for adding so much value. Thank you so much for helping. And at the end of the day, man, I mean, that feels like incredible, right? That like, yeah, okay, cool. I could build an outbound system, right? Where I'm hammering people's inboxes and saying, we've worked with this brand, that brand, you should come and work with us. But it's not as good, and it doesn't feel as good as I'm just going to put so much value and so much content out there in the world and just hope that people come back. And I'll tell you like what sparked a lot of this. Now, I mean, this is subconscious, right? But when I first started my brand, I was doing $1,500 a month in ad spend, and maybe like 4 or 5K a month in sales. I hit up to, I looked for like Amazon agencies, and I found Tenuity. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. Massive. They're one of the biggest. No. But I hit them up, and they're like, oh, you're too small for us, but here's a guide, here's a guide, here's a guide. And they gave me like a profitability guide and a discovery guide, whatever. And I'm like, man, like I really appreciate this. Like I'm too small for them, which I understand. They're a bigger agency, totally. But they gave me so much value, and I feel so grateful for them. And I went on their website and I downloaded guides, and I attended some of their webinars. Wow. And so I'm like, this is kind of what I want to be. I want to be like that source of like a beacon of like value, like a source of like you. Maybe you can't work with me, but you benefited. Or maybe you can work with me, but you're not sure yet, but you're getting a lot of value. And then you're like, fine, I'll hire him for the execution. So that's been my strategy, and it's been very, very successful.
It's interesting, actually, on the agency side, we are doing a really big shift over here at Upgrowth. And one of the big shifts that we're making is this whole idea of, I feel like what we've tried to position ourselves, we've been around for about 6 years now. And so we've been through a couple of cycles. And one of the ways that we've tried to position ourselves over the years is as the expert. And it's interesting when you actually realize what brands want. And I think about the brands that we own. I'm like, what do I want? No, I'm the expert in my brand. I know my brand better than you will ever know my brand. I know the language that my brand likes. I know all of that stuff better than the agency's ever going to know. I need you to do this stuff for me because I just don't have time. And I need somebody who I can trust to do this stuff for me. And so it's interesting that you brought that up, because I think that there's a big shift, especially in direct consumer land right now, where a lot of the facades are being ripped down of what agencies actually do, right? And you can see behind me, my thing, agencies suck. And it's not that agencies actually suck, but it brings this conversation up of like, well, why? Why do we have these experiences? Interesting. I was looking at Google Trends the other day, and actually, sorry, an agency friend of mine was, and I'm like, oh, Nigel, I'm going to steal this from you. And he was showing me the Google Trends for the word agency in North America. The demand has never been so high for the word agency. And so obviously agencies are needed, right? But what are we actually inherently trying to do at the end of the day? Like that's, I think that's what it comes down to, is like, what actually works for brands at the end of the day. Let's walk through. I want to walk through before we get into the, at the end, we're going to get into your hack for TikTok shops. And you see, I'm breadcrumbing too here, guys. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn as we go here. But I want to get into what your YouTube strategy has been from a content perspective. Like what does the content look like? Do you follow, like a time limit, or is it one topic? What is all that stuff? And I want to call out one thing before we get into that. Guys, just remember, there was one call to action. That is it. One call to action, and you were funneling everything through there. Do not make it harder on yourself. Like, if that is working, awesome. You don't need to now create some new lead magnet or some new way to talk to people. Just one CTA. I just wanted to just get that through here. So
yeah,
keep going.
And for the D2C brands, I mean, if you guys want to kind of like think a little bit more about this, and you're like, oh, this is like all agency talk. It's like, look up Legion Brands. There's a guy, his fake name is Mike Matthews or whatever, but he's built his entire brand all around adding value. So it talks about the different ingredients and how they work, and what like, does HIIT training help you lose more fat, or does steady state training lose more fat? And it's just, he created, and another one is Jim Stoppani. So Jim Supplements, JYM, I believe, Supplements.
Yeah.
Look him up. He created so much value and gave so much education as a doctor that's also like a fitness guy, and built this audience by adding value. And then later on, when he announced that he has these supplements, it became a very successful brand. So adding value to the industry, and then, or to whatever you're in, if you're selling supplements or some products, is going to be tough, right? Of course. And maybe it's not for you if you're selling like ladders, right? But if you're selling anything that's like a consumable or cosmetic or something like that, definitely tons of value that you can add. So here's my YouTube strategy. Initially, it was very, very basic, and I said, I'm just going to go find things that I can teach in a very nice and broken down way on YouTube. So I did a step-by-step, how, like, an explanation of how Amazon ads works, right? How Amazon PPC works. Then I did like a 42 video series on how Amazon works, which is like all the way down from, creating a product. And again, I didn't say like how you can find a product. I just said, you need to, create a solution to a problem that's better than everyone else's solution, validate the demand for it, make sure that there's competitors that are selling, blah, blah, blah. So, it was very basic stuff. Then, we kind of neglected YouTube for a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, I just need to build the habit back on. So I started doing interviews, and I would just bring people on, and I would say, guys, just come on the show and give me like some sort of SOP on something that you're really good at, so I can share value with my audience. Then I did like a 2-week binge of Mr. Beast. And I'm like, I'm going to figure out how YouTube works. So I went super deep on Mr. Beast, and this is what I realized. So
I just did this recently too, by the way. Totally inadvertently. We was like, we were in Mexico, and my kids are like, hey, have you ever heard of Mr. Beast? I'm like, I've never watched any of his videos. And I feel like my life was changed actually after watching about 30 of his videos, being like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it.
I watched like I watched so many videos, and I watched like compilations of his advice. So, anyways, like the summary is this. He says it starts with a title and a thumbnail. Like that's how the entire video is built. It's like, what's that title that hooks you in? That is like, watch this before losing thousands of dollars when creating your PPC campaigns. And it's like, okay, like I want to watch this. So then you're like, okay, what's a thumbnail that is going to make you feel like I need to watch this? And like a lot of times it's like a screenshot of like poor performance in the campaigns, amazing performance in the campaigns, and then it's just like me in the middle or something like that. Mr. Beast does way better, right? But his stuff is also like, he shows someone in a prison, like, hanging for his life, and you're like, okay, I want to know what this is about. I can't do the same thing, but you get the point. It's thumbnail and title, and they should not mention. So on your thumbnail, you should not mention what's your title. Like, don't say lose thousands in your campaigns. Instead, just show something that in the brain will register as negative or bad to good, something like that. So
interesting. Okay.
that's how the videos. That's how the video idea starts. It starts there. So once we have a title and a thumbnail, then we go into the scripting. So the scripting is simple. We have a hook, and in the first 30 seconds of the video, I need to write it down, and I need to write it down the way that I would say it, like even the ums and the and so and and like everything like that, so that I'm writing a really good hook, and in the hook I'm getting right into it. I'm saying, here's why you should keep watching this video. Like, every day thousands of Amazon sellers are losing millions of dollars because they have a bad campaign structure. This is a campaign structure I figured out from losing my own hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in this video, I'm gonna give you a step-by-step breakdown on how you can fix it and how I've done it to where like I'm not losing any money. For example, like that's kind of what the hook would be like. So you're like, shit, okay, I know exactly what's going to be in this video, and I am enticed to watch it. And then from there, I just outline bullets, and I'm like, okay, keep it. Don't talk about yourself. If they want to know who you are, they will figure it out. You just need to give value. And so I go value, 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 like breaking down step by step. And I'll try to insert like how I've worked with this many brands, or I did this or I did that, to kind of give a little bit of who I am, but in
just
1
a
to
little
2 seconds.
breadcrumbing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be like, okay, a little bit about me, guys. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mina, blah, blah, blah. Boring. I don't want to watch this video. You know what I mean? So I want you to click on the video, and you're getting a masterclass, and then you're like, wow, thank you so much. Who are you? I want to know who you are. That's what I want to do. Not like I'm self-imposing, like, oh, this is who I am. I'm the greatest of the great, kind of shit. So now in the video, I will try to I will try to mention something where I will refer to another video that you should go watch. This YouTube loves this, in their algorithm, where if you could get someone from your video to another video to another video, all in your channel, they absolutely love this. So I'm always trying to point to other stuff. And then towards the end of the video, there'll usually be another video that they should go watch. But my call to action, it used to be go get a free audit. That didn't work because I feel like when someone's just learning about you, it's like, hey man, we just met Upgrowth, and you're like, yeah man, like, let's chat about like how we can help your brand. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested. So we stopped doing that. And what we did was we would always have a downloadable resource. So in the link in the description would be like, guys, I did all this stuff, and I know it's a little bit complex. I created a tool for it, completely free. If you want it, just go download it. Link in the description. Or I know this was a long video. I've summarized the whole thing in a step-by-step procedure. If you want my SOP, link in the description. And so every single video became a lead magnet, and we're tracking it with UTM trackers. And I think every single month we're getting like 80 to 150, something like that, opt-ins from all of those lead magnets across all of the different, YouTube videos, because we have UTM tracking. So we can figure out, and by the way, I'm talking not opt-in into the lead magnet. This is 80 to 150 audits coming in from like, because they, we know that they came from like that video, and they went and filled out the audit form. So it became super valuable. And then at the end of the video, the description, you need some SEO optimization. So I use TubeBuddy, or it's actually my wife. My wife runs this whole thing, by the way. And so she uses TubeBuddy and the other one, I forget which one it's called. But anyways, so she uses a couple tools. The description is usually simple. The bottom is like a big chunk of text for SEO, and there's a lot of like links to like other videos and other resources. And that's my entire strategy, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also, guys, I'm feeling a little convicted. I'm going to be honest. Some of the things that you were saying, I'm like, oh man, guys, I'm about 550 episodes into this, and a lot of the things that you were talking about just on the podcast side, these are going to be tweaks. This is going to be Jordan 35.0 after this episode. So I'm so glad, because, Mina was, 5 minutes late, and I almost just closed the browser and thought, okay, I got 45 minutes back today, but oh man, am I ever glad. We've been teasing people. We've been teasing them with the TikTok shops hack. What is it?
Okay, cool. So I'm going to share with you my entire TikTok shop strategy. This is something that we just rolled out to a bunch of brands. It's still in beta, so we're testing. We're trying to get the kinks out, and then we're going to offer it to everyone. But
cool.
I'm taking like a multi-step approach. So step number one is, we're creating like a targeted collaboration. So the way that it works on TikTok Shop is you have your store, and then there's affiliates on there. There are bots out there that you can create or, buy that will, you can put the kind of criteria, like you want them to have at least a GMV of 1,000. You want them to do X or like have this many impressions, or you want them to be in this category. You set the criteria, and then you can send out 500 to 1,000 outreaches a day, hitting people up, asking them if you want to collaborate with them. So that's the first one. Now, the other thing that I realized is most affiliates are used to 5 to 10% commission. If you go up to 25 to 30% commission, they're 10 times more likely to work with you than if you're offering a small commission. Now, here's the beautiful thing: if you go do well on TikTok Shop, there's a halo effect onto Amazon. I'm assuming there's also going to be some level of halo effect onto your e-commerce D2C site.
Talk about this all day.
Yeah. So even though you're like, oh my God, 30%, that's my entire margin. It doesn't matter. It's as if you're running ads, but for free. Like you're not paying any money for it. And it's
getting content.
Exactly. So that's the first step. Then the second step is we started building a community. So we created a community, and I'm like, how do I keep these people engaged? So every time someone would accept it, we say, hey, by the way, we have a community. There's like a community manager in there that is an expert, and she made hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales with UGC content, and she can help guide you and build you up and all this stuff. And we'll also bring you all of our brands exclusively. So we built this community. We start funneling everyone into it. We built a massive community. I think there's like 800 to 1,000 people in there. And then we started bringing them products, and the girl started promoting and saying, this is how you should do this. This video worked so well. That video worked so well, all that kind of stuff. So that was the next step. Then the third step was every time we found a piece of UGC content that the creator created. And by the way, we told them this right at the bat. We said, if anyone creates good content, we'll push it with ads. What does that mean? It means they're going to get more views, which is more likely to convert, which is more likely for them to get affiliates, affiliate commission. So any piece of content that worked well, we started pushing it with Spark ads, and we're testing shoppable ads or whatever. And then the final piece, which I haven't touched yet, but my friend Robert Oliver, you guys should check him out. He started doing this where if someone does well multiple times, they have a conversation about bringing them on for retainer. They create a new dedicated account, and they start putting out content every single day. And so that was kind of the entire strategy. That's my entire strategy that we're implementing right now. And again, you can have all my secrets because you're not going to beat me on the execution, and you should eventually hire an agency like mine. But anyways, I'm kidding, guys. This is just what we're doing, what we're testing. There's one more thing I forgot to mention is we're also gamifying it in the community. So, and even in the people we outreach, we say, by the way, we have something called the TikTok Shop Games. And if you hit this much in GMV, we're going to give you $1,000 in cash. If you hit this much in GMV, we're going to give you a full paid flight to Tulum, for example. So we're gamifying it to get people to hit certain levels, because obviously if they make 100K in revenue, I'm going to give them a $2,000-$3,000 flight to Tulum. I don't care,
This is great. So I've been going hard on TikTok Shop. It's interesting, actually. I feel like TikTok Shop is the place where now Amazon sellers and direct consumer are coming together. And I'm like, I'm so glad I had you on this podcast, because there's been such a divide in the past, right? It's like, no, we're D2C people. Like, no, we're Amazon people. And now it's like, oh, well, TikTok Shop comes around, and now it's the social commerce. And Q3, Meta is rolling out the same platform, right? They're going to be transforming their shops into this. And all of us who actually get it now are going to be at the forefront of this. It's incredible. And again, the execution on it is difficult, right? Like, we have a whole army of people. We're running the same service right now and working with some massive D2C brands. And it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And we figured out a few of these hacks, but man, oh man, did you ever help out with some of that. And again, guys, it's a lot of work. That's all I want to say. Yeah. Mina, this has been an incredible episode. We're at the end here. I can't even ask you some of the questions that I normally ask my guests here, because you brought so much value. Guys, this was a masterclass in how to bring value when you come on a podcast. So thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you and more about what you're up to, especially if they want to head over to Amazon at some point?
Yeah. So for anything Amazon, go to the website, triviumco.com, triviumco.com. You can hit me up on Instagram at the Mina Elias, Minaelias, or my LinkedIn is Mina Elias. I'm active both of those places. If you reach out, just say something that like, hey, I heard you on the Upgrowth podcast, just so I can recognize because I'm getting like 1,000 weird DMs every single day. So just try and stand out a little bit. But happy to answer any questions. I don't charge unless you want to ask me like 1,000 questions, but it's usually I'm happy to help in any way.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for bringing so much value today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the podcast, Jordan. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm just going to do a quick intro.
Okay.
On today's episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand, I got to have Mina Elias on the podcast. Oh my gosh, we had such a good conversation. He broke down so many things for me. He broke down his YouTube strategy for his agency in particular. And direct-to-consumer guys, do not worry. This is all applicable to you. He also went through his TikTok shop strategy, which added a few things to some of the stuff that we've been doing over here at Upgrowth and really hits home. Guys, this is an episode you are not going to want to miss.